Hey, folks, and welcome back. So, this week we are moving on from the nefarious moral characters we've been talking about the last few weeks, the bullshitters and the assholes, and we're going to talk about the moral exemplars of contemporary society, the awesome people. So, we're going to spend our time this week unpacking what it is for someone to be awesome and understanding that in juxtaposition to its antonym, suckiness. We're going to look at awesome people and sucky people, those who are awesome and those who suck. Um, and we're going to do it by looking at Nick Riggle's article, High Five, How Being Awesome Became the Great Imperative of Our Time. Now I'm going to try to get through this quickly, keep it short and to the point because I'm on the road. I'm using a really crappy microphone here, and so the sound's not great, but I'm going to try to make it work. So let's get started. Awesomeness and suckiness, right? Riggle argues that these are the paramount virtue and vice of contemporary American society, that we don't spend much time thinking about whether someone is honorable or polite or kind or virtuous in some other respect. Awesomeness, though, is a sort of organizing virtue of American society. We want to be awesome. We are attracted to awesome people. We strive ourselves to be awesome, and we really, really, really don't want to suck. When you recognize this, there are two possible responses. The first possible response is to think, oh no, this is terrible. We are working with an impoverished moral vocabulary. We're living in an impoverished moral landscape. We haven't developed the toolkit necessary to make fine-grained moral distinctions and to really work together to construct a working morality for our society, for our community. And the fact that we just talk about awesomeness and suckiness and nothing beyond that is a real indication of this plague that we have fallen into. On the other hand, you might think that no, awesomeness is just a peculiar moral virtue that is particular to something about our society and the way we have structured it, the society we have become. Maybe there's something about who we are that makes awesomeness the virtue of our times. And it's not an indication that we are working with an impoverished moral vocabulary. And in fact, this is what Riggle wants to say. He thinks that there's something about our individualism, something about the way that we build community and our need for communal recognition of individual gifts, prowess, that makes awesomeness a particular virtue to our times. Now, let's refine our target just a little bit, because we say everything is awesome. We say that I had some awesome wings last night, or this new video game that I'm playing is awesome, or that new ice cream flavor from Ben and Jerry's is just awesome, or my new dishwasher is just awesome. Right? We don't just talk about people as being awesome. We talk about all sorts of things as being awesome. And maybe it just means like excellent or cool or good and doesn't have any meaning beyond that. That is, awesome might just be an expressivist, or might be just given an expressivist analysis, as we talked about last week. It's just used to give expression to a particular attitude that we have. Right? We're just saying, hey, yes, hooray, that thing. That thing is good. But when we say that a person is awesome, Riggle thinks we're saying something more particular about that person. He wants to give it a sort of cognitivist or descriptivist analysis, that there are correctness conditions for the use of this term, awesome, that it applies to certain kinds of people and not other kinds of people, to certain kinds of behavior and not other kinds of behavior. That it doesn't just mean good or cool or thumbs up, but there's something particular about it. So what is it? What is it that we are saying about awesome people when we say they are awesome? Well, one thing we might be, let's look at some examples. Riggle gives us the example of Jeremy Fry. Jeremy Fry is this dude at a Celtics game who when at halftime during the game, they're doing the, spinning the cam around the audience, playing Bon Jovi's "Living on a Prayer," and when it hits Fry, like he jumps out of his seat and starts dancing and singing along and gets everyone in his section excited and pumped about it. He forms a community with those people. They react positively to him. They want to be with him in that moment. They want to share in this joy that he is creating. And there seems to be something truly awesome about what Fry is doing. We also, Riggle points out, could be awesome to our barista, right? When you're ordering a cup of coffee at Starbucks or wherever you're getting your coffee, you can just go through the motions and order your cup of coffee and get your cup of coffee, pay for it, and everything's fine. You could be sucky, right? You could be demanding or demeaning to your barista, or you could hit on them in an inappropriate way, and that would suck. But you could also be awesome, right? You could make a joke that lifts their spirits in some way a little bit. Share a moment with them that leaves both of you feeling a little bit better. And when you walk away, they might say, huh, that was awesome. That was an awesome encounter. Or might think that as they move on to their next customer. So what ties these ideas together? Well, for Riggle, the central idea of awesomeness is the creation of social openings. We enact a wide variety of social roles when we're engaging with one another just in our everyday lives. Sometimes we're a cashier, sometimes a customer, sometimes a father, sometimes a mother, sometimes a teacher, sometimes a student, sometimes an authority figure, sometimes a helpful citizen, a person in public. And all of these roles are norm governed. There are expectations about how you ought to behave when you inhabit these roles. And usually we just perform these roles in a rather generic way. We don't really think about what we're doing. We don't really put our own spin on things. We just kind of do it. We just act it out. We don't add any flair to it. But sometimes we inject ourselves into those roles a little bit more. We make them our own. We put our own spin on things. And when we do that, we create social openings. So Riggle says a social opening occurs when an opportunity arises to step outside of these roles, in particular when there is an opportunity to recognize the individual each other is or aspires to be beyond whatever personality traits and skills are required to enact the social role. So a social opening happens when you do something in one of these mundane social interactions that takes you slightly outside of the role, doesn't violate any particular norms, but takes you slightly outside of the role and injects some of who you are into that role, injects some of your individuality into that role, and allows the other to recognize you as an individual, not just as someone, an actor playing this particular social role, but as an individual human being who has all the wishes and autonomy and dreams and fears of every other human being, right? They recognize you as an individual, and you recognize their recognition, and so treat them as an individual. And it's a way for us to sort of meet each other as individual human beings through these social roles. Right? Normally our interactions are just mediated by these norm-governed roles, and we don't think about who's actually playing those roles. Social openings create opportunities to think about who's playing those roles. And we can take those social openings up in various ways. And we can respond to social openings by being down for those social openings and responding in kind, just noting that that social opening is there, that that person has put themselves out there in some way and recognizing them as such. Or we can go a step further and we can be game. We can enthusiastically take up that invitation be like the people in the Jeremy Fry video who start dancing along with him and singing along with him. Or we can put the person down. We can suck in our response and be like the person in the Fry video who pretends to kick him. We can ruin everyone else's fun. The importance of these social openings, though, is that they create or inspire community on small and large scales. They bring us together as individuals rather than merely inhabitors or actors in these social roles. They bring us together as individuals, and that is necessary for the creation of community. And sometimes this happens just one-on-one, like when you're interacting with your barista, or sometimes it happens on a large scale, like when you are part of a social movement or interacting with a huge audience. Pete Seeger, for example, is one of the most awesome people to have ever lived on this account. Pete Seeger was a folk singer and a social activist, a peace activist, anti-war activist, and Pete Seeger's concerts, his shows, were not just displays of his virtuosity, displays of his incredible musical talent that people came to see. They were shared experiences that he drew people into. He created an opportunity or social opening for them to all join in to this shared experience. He would lead them in song, and in fact, much of the time, he didn't ever sing his own songs. He just let his audience sing as he played along with them. Pete Seeger was awesome, right? He created these sorts of social openings. I got to see him do this one time before he passed away in 2008 at Barack Obama's first inauguration, the inaugural concert the night before the inauguration. Seeger, Bruce Springsteen, and Seeger's nephew played This Land Is Your Land, and Seeger played his role perfectly as the awesome leader that brought this community together and got the whole National Mall singing along with him.
About our home, the father of American folk music, Pete Seeger, his grandson Tyler. Lead us, Pete.
You sing it with us. We'll give you the words. When I was walking that ribbon of highway, as I went walking that ribbon of highway, I saw the peace, and in the skyway, I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. Everybody sing it. This land is yours.
Awesomeness, according to Riggle, has its own ethic then. Right? There's its own ethics. There's a sort of set of expectations that comes along with enacting awesomeness, creating social openings, and also responding to awesomeness, being game or down for this sort of deeper social interaction with another human being. And when people act out this ethics, one response seems to be almost more appropriate than any other, according to Riggle, and that's the high five. He says the high five is a brilliant symbol of what I call the ethics of awesomeness. It concerns the actions, habits, character traits, values, and principles, in short, the ways of life that make us awesome and not sucky. The creative community builder stands at the pinnacle of the ethics of awesomeness, forming its highest ideal. The ethics of awesomeness concerns ways of being such a person and ways of responding or failing to respond to them. The ideally awesome person is, in short, a virtuoso of communal imagination, imagining culture and community where it doesn't exist and bringing it to life. The awesome person brings culture and community to life and brings us together in those communities. The person like Glenn Burke, the African-American baseball player, gay trailblazer, who on October 2nd in 1977 at Dodger Stadium invented the high five, gave the first high five in human history, or at least is credited as such. And was known for bringing his team together. He was the life of that Dodgers team that he played for. He himself was awesome, but he also used the high five to recognize the awesomeness of others. And it's important to note for Riggle that this isn't just a recognition of excellence in the performance of others. It's not just when someone hits a home run or hits a three-pointer that they get a high five. It's also when they miss a free throw or strike out or are having a rough day. A high five can lift them up. It can enact this sort of social openness, this sort of social opening that brings them back into the fold. It can recognize that they are striving for awesomeness, even if in this particular endeavor they've failed. So high five is an interesting symbol in this respect. But of course, there are also the flip side of awesome people. There are the sucky people. Sucky people don't concern themselves with fostering community. Right? They just expect it to be there when they need it. They expect to be able to mooch off the community building that others do. When they really need those people in their community, they expect them to just show up for them. Those people suck, right? And it's not just that they fail to inject their own life-giving energy into these communal endeavors. According to Riggle, they vacuum the life out of it. Right? We've all been in those situations on a team or in a club or in a work environment or in a classroom where there are people trying to be awesome, trying to build a community and do things together. And there's one person who just sucks the life out of it, who just ruins it for everyone else. They vacuum the life out of it. They are a sucky person, the exact opposite of awesomeness. So this is what I want to talk about on Friday when we meet. Is Riggle right? Is this what we mean when we say that someone's awesome? That they create these sorts of social openings for others to interact with them as individuals, to recognize one another as individuals through these social roles that we have to inhabit for our society to function. So let's talk about awesomeness and suckiness on Thursday, or Friday.